everybody is well fed. We have two very challenging talks, mainly our lids that usually drop after lunch. At any rate, we'd like to thank these two wonderful speakers who will be relating to fascinating topics, hoping that they will keep you attentive and intrigued to listen to more. The first is Major General Nimrod Sheffer, Chief of the Planning Division of the IDF, who received a declaration from the Chief of Staff, and he promised us to have a very interesting talk about the structure of the service, the multi-annual plan. And you know that we are speaking about the multi-annual program. So without further ado, Nimrod, the floor is yours. Good afternoon. After this demo, all that I have to do is to give you an excellent talk and introduce the working plan and the structure plan of the IDF within 30 minutes is a challenge which is even more difficult than doing it at 2 p.m. And I'll try also to meet the expectations challenged by the Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff's talk and the Thai talk were mainly intended to explain how bad the situation is, so they'll be in the right frame of mind and say that everything they said is acceptable, and you'll be voting with us. Even though I'm going to be brief in my presentation, I'm covering a very long process, a deep, significant process of structuring the military ability, the IDF strengths for many, many years to come. I'll introduce very briefly, and the idea is to give you a gist of the process, but also some of the details about the process. About intelligence appraisal. One slide really showing what I gave you this morning to show you what was our starting point. Two slides about the strategic situation. These are intended to tell us what are the threats and what we'd like to do about them. The IDF's main capabilities, briefly about resources. It's not going to be a budgetary talk. I don't intend to go into the debate as to the security budget, although I would say how it should be tackled at a strategic level and not at a financial level. And we'll be speaking about how to balance the military strengths composed of so many components, how it should be looked at as a plan, and two words in conclusion. If we're speaking about the multi-annual plan, in one slide we see why it's so complex, why it takes such a long time, and what's the need for a long-term planning, where does it derive from. If we're speaking about technologies, we're speaking about dozens of years. When we're speaking about projects, we are speaking about the same order of magnitude, maybe somewhat shorter. Manpower, I will tell you what I mean when I'm introducing manpower. We want to prepare a jet fighter pilot is about 10 years, 5 years, sorry, from basic training until he's professional. Even officers who are no longer in service are demobbed. So it takes a long time to develop proficient professionals. I'm showing you the slide, so later on when we discuss topics about the strengths, you'll understand why long-term planning is vital for security, not for the budget debate, but for security. If your planning is short-term, you actually cover only things that can be hit, and long-term elements are neglected. Some of the slides are in English. I thought that the more complex should be related to in Hebrew, but you'll be easy understanding what I mean. We start with intelligence appraisal, then we look at trends in the Middle East. This is the strategic analysis, the chances and risks, and this is an important order. We're trying to take advantage of chances, opportunities and threats that by nature are part of the Army's doing. We are then asking ourselves what's the meaning of the analysis vis-à-vis the national security. Where does it link up to the infrastructure or the national security concept of the State of Israel? What are the main challenges? How do they impact the fundamental capabilities of the IDF? And therefrom, how do we devise a program? Once we go through this analysis, we are watching the details of that program. Now about the intelligence appraisal, without going into detail, you heard a lot from Itai and also from the Chief of Staff last night. I started right. The nuclear program is the main challenge for us. Also the terror distribution derived from Iran, the dismembering of Syria, many question marks. And this is for us not any permission to abandon certain military capabilities. I think it's a very important point. Syria is rather vexing, the enormous arsenal that they have and the developing terror activities. Turkey, open opportunity. We all wish that it will be realized soon. We don't see it yet fully present, hoping that it will be realized. Lebanon, physical strength that increased in the hands of Hezbollah over the last few months, and since the Second Lebanon War, as of 2006, and maybe a weakening of Hezbollah, we are actually observing also opportunities. Sinai as an alternative terror space for Gaza, plus Gaza and the risk deriving from the increased power of Hamas in Egypt. Many question marks. The state is sticking to peace treaty with Israel according to the president and its security annex, still uncertainty. The operational meanings of the intelligence appraisal that I alluded to in the gist are indicating that the new battlefield has changed. Constantly we see the change. The strategy that used to be to attack the state of Israel on the home front with powers, jet fighters from the sky has changed to a strategy composed of ballistic weapons along tens of kilometers are well protected. We can see those both perceptions. On the right, the ability to hit whatever point in the state of Israel with ballistic arsenal, which is becoming heavier and more precise, and longer range, better hidden, many characteristics, and also better protected thanks to very advanced defense mechanism intended to prevent the ability of the Israeli Air Force to attack them and prevent the land troops of the IDF to maneuver inside in order to impact these capabilities. If we look military at the Middle East, the analysis that we are doing is indicating that this is the major military change, and this requires our main preparation. The strategic appraisal, I won't repeat it. I'd like really to speak about the structure. Much uncertainty in the Middle East, not deriving because we don't know what will decide this or that leader, deriving from the fact that even in Syria nobody knows what will be the situation in a year or two. Egypt ditto, nobody knows how the new regime will evolve. So many multi-arena changes, many modifications. Our appraisals is that the probability of a deliberate confrontation is not high, but the probability of Middle East deteriorating to a confrontation is constantly present. I'll speak about the budget. Bottom line in the appraisal is that there are opportunities that we have to take advantage of. The Chief of Staff gave the IDF a directive when he laid down the multi-annual principles, speaking about short-term systems, the nature of the threat against the state of Israel in practical manners from every point in Syria and Lebanon, Iran, compels us to reach a very rapid decision. We can't afford the luxury to have fire on home front in Israel. This is the first order in the IDF directives. We have to act rapidly. We do understand that the home front must be defended for two reasons. First of all, to defend Israeli citizens, the core of our raison d'etre, and secondly, protect the ability to enact the war endeavor. These two subjects are quite different. If the warfare step is impacted, it will also influence our ability to shorten the campaign. Therefore, defending the home front is the main element. We are investing much energy on a daily basis. And we are speaking about the campaign between wars, intending to prevent the next war, simply weaken the enemy, so that for the next war it will have less operational ability and provide for it. Wherever the State of Israel can prevent wars, it will do so. It's a campaign per se, with targets, plans, objectives, with arsenal. It is a fully fledged campaign. And the next order, in the general orders given by the Chief of Staff, is to create military ability that should be flexible, enacted under every condition, versatile. We can't devise or acquire a jet able to do one thing. That's the perception in many other locations. Here, an IDF weapon must be able to take care of every mission. And then the robustness. The tools must be able, even if something in the battlefield has changed or the conditions of war. We can't really see an arsenal not reacting because something has changed in the theater. We translated it to an operational perception of it was approved, short war, leaning on 5 capabilities. You can see the names up at the upper column to win. As of intelligence, that's the infrastructure for everything, and intelligence currently differs from the traditional intelligence we used to have, allowing you to fight almost as a weaponry, air supremacy, giving us the possibility to fight wherever the IDF has to fight. The offensive capability, the maneuvering is imperative in every campaign. Land, right timing, place can be critical, and I depicted here a tank. Doesn't mean necessarily that if we have to be at a certain given place, you are driving there in a tank. I won't elaborate more than that, but we have to know to be at the right location, at proper timing, and depth to the left is actually continuing the story, leaning on 4 capabilities that must be supported all the time in order to enable the war endeavor, the defense of home front, the borders. The threat of terrorism is constantly becoming more complex. Syria is presenting now challenges we haven't been familiar with for 40 years. The amount of fire from Syria over the last few months is exceeding what occurred over the last 40 years. It was actually a quiet border. The campaign between wars I mentioned already, very important element, and obviously the logistic endeavor without which one can't do anything. We devised a set of capabilities determined by the Chief of Staff. The IDF will develop them. They are devised based on a long series of lessons, of maneuvers, of wars, of campaigns, drawing lessons and influencing the capabilities. Number 1, air superiority, as we called it. Everybody's using his own expression, expressing the vital need of the State of Israel to know, to control the campaign from the air under every circumstances. If we're speaking about maneuver capabilities to the right, we're speaking about abilities that will enable us to maneuver once again wherever, at all times. Ditto regarding the maritime superiority. The offensive capabilities, defending the home front, C4I, which is developing, devote a word to it later on, together with the cyber, and obviously the intelligence grip, without which we can't do anything. What is our strategy to structure the power? And I link up to the resources that are dictating a strategy that entails also certain risks. If grossly I can show you the order of magnitude of the IDF in this slide, it's quite obvious that the resources that the State of Israel can allocate for security will be shrinking. We are preparing ourselves accordingly. I hope they will increase as much as the state would be able to do it. It's quite obvious that the traditional order of magnitude will decrease, even because it's becoming costly and costlier. Tank division is costly today than 10 years ago. Ditto the air arsenal. It's clear to us that our operational ability should increase because challenges in the future are not going to disappear. They're going to be more complex, actually. Speaking about operational capability of the IDF, like say the ability to hit a Scud launcher distance 4 kilometers from target is more complex than in your ability to intercept a MiG in the air, much more so. For that you supply an answer. The rivals' capability is increasing, or our ability is to face it is or cope with it is more complex, and despite the decrease of the traditional order of magnitude, things should be set off. Here I showed you in highlights the capabilities that are being developed in order to fill in the gap that's going to be created in consequence of the decreased traditional order of magnitude. You can see that obviously together with that you can see the decreased cost, allowing us to develop new capabilities. I'm introducing only such dilemmas. There are many, many others when you're trying to hammer out a response. First of all, should we waiver operational existing order of magnitudes compared to something new in the future? Let's say that a new tank is an operational challenge. If I want to allocate resources to build a future tank, I have to waiver it right now so that in future I have the possibility. This is a step that I have to analyze. How do I face in the active defense? Some of you are familiar with it. Do I tackle the defensive or the offensive elements, or what combination? A launcher is attacked in enemy territory, or wait for the missile to come to me. There are various considerations, as well as economic and even lengths of war. If I focus on defense, war can last forever. If I provide for defense against missiles and nobody deters or hampers the launching, it guarantees long war, but strong offensive steps can shorten the war. I don't have to speak about the current affairs of the war, and that's part of the dilemmas that we have to cope with. 3 words about resources. The State of Israel is allocating 3 resources: manpower, the most important, budget, and space. I shan't give you data. It may be detrimental, but there's quite a lot of space, and the State of Israel is not very big. This is how the army is built. Out of 700,000 people serving in the army, 70% reserve duty, part of the security strategy of Israel, and 5th are compulsory non-professional soldiers. The professional segment of the IDF, with experience, know-how, bringing the deep understanding of warfare, war, at the professional, technological, operation level of every kind, is this segment 3 to 4% of the total army. And here too, we heard yesterday about an army which is too big, and I believe that many people are convinced that it is. Some think that it's very professional. It's only 3 or 4%, very little, totally different compared with any other army. And look at the main core of the army. More than 90%, this very cheap, compulsory and reserve army, producing Israel's GDP. Manpower. The recruitment percentage is decreasing. It is a social challenge. We feel it on a daily basis. Soldiers' families. Social challenge for the State of Israel, elaborated here in this conference, and this topic will actually be part of our agenda, versus the need, which is constantly increasing for soldiers. The monthly increase in cyber realm is thousands, or in the air realm, various arrows and iron domes is leading us to need to have more soldiers, because we don't close any other capability. We are actually increasing the IDF's operational activity versus reduction of manpower and minoring, and this is leading us to a gap of several myriads of soldiers. This is only regarding the compulsory service. Budget, I don't want to go into a deep discussion concerning the budget, security budget, but the picture must be in everybody's mind, well imprinted, by the way. Many people are quite familiar with it. As of the 80s, the lost decade in which security budget was more than a third of Israel GDP. Currently, we are at about 6%. including American support, and 1% less. Without the American support, it's no burden for the security budget, part of the security consumption, but no burden. And in recent years, since we had the Brodet pathway in 2007, the security budget as part of the GDP has been declining constantly. If we look at the percentage of the state budget from the days where it was 50% almost to date, according to the budget law 2012, we're witnessing a sharp decline in the security budget as part of state budget, which is indicating already about the node of priorities of the government to divert resources from security needs to civilian needs. And according to Brodet pathway, it continues declining. Also, in the eyes of the security system, it's correct. But even if we accept the interpretation of the security system and Brodet, apparently as part of the state budget, the security budget is constantly declining. That's the one before the last slide. 3 columns. 2007, Brodet Committee established a multi-annual plan for a 5-year budget with a horizon for 10 years, and the government accepted it. 3 different interpretations to the decisions. That's the interpretation of the security system. The Tischler Commission set up by the Ministry of Defense 2 years ago with its own interpretation, and the Treasury had the yellow interpretation. I want to say it because I wish to say a couple of elements. Great strengths of the Commission that was managed by David Brodet was in determining the horizon for Israel's national security plan. In this horizon, you can see where various interpretations can lead us, and this gap is between the Treasury and the Tischler interpretation, not pertaining to the security system, an accumulated gap of dozens of billions of shekels. That's the budget. If we're speaking about security budget, we can see it's composed of various items, 60 billion shekels, almost equal to Asher Tischler's interpretation, composed of many items. I shan't go into detail. One element, this budget in an annual vision cut in 2013. This budget is not flexible, almost 100%. It's inflexible, meaning that whatever is not current activity, current immediate expenditure cannot be touched anymore for 2013 because it's already part of long-term programs. The meaning of such a declaration that cutback in short-term elements is immediately impacting the activity of the IDF and nothing else, structural or salarial or anything. This slide, possibly the most important one, I spoke about challenges and resources, at least in part, says the following. The slide says the following. When you're devising a program, security plan for the State of Israel, the most important element, even before the details, is to have a balance between the 4 components. The first component is the size of the army, and this is something that must be determined by the Israel government, and I'll tell what army it wants, or the level of its preparedness. To what extent does it have to be prepared? How much you invest in training, life cycle course, etc. How much you invest in all those elements that make the army ready for war. Thirdly, is actually the length of breath. An army may be ready for war, but it has to have all the equipment for 1 day of fighting. You have to make sure that you have a long breathing. 3 months ago, we had a war that lasted for more than a month. You have to make sure that you have the resources for it. That's the third element. And the fourth, which is the largest on the board, but mostly it is evicting for cutbacks, at least conceptually, namely how you devise the service for the future. No army can have here an error of a small component of capabilities. This reality, or in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, will hit us. Therefore, when we lay down, or we determine what the army will be, when the State of Israel determines what the army is going to be like, it has to make sure that there's balance among all these components. There's only one component that can be modified according to short-term timetables, this one. All other components are inflexible in a horizon of months and partly even a year or two. When you determine that all this time must be reduced, you have to provide a horizon for its realization, because if you take budget from the IDF, the immediate impact would be stopping all the things that are happening currently, as I said previously. Let me go into part of the programs very, very superficially. Let's start with functional continuum. What is it really intended for the IDF to continue acting under absorption? Itai elaborated it extensively this morning. It's well known. This slide is saying that at the level of precision of missiles, how many missiles have to hit a power station in order to dismantle it. You can see the number. And that's the current situation. We see for the coming years not a space of future technology or technology held only by Rafael, but existing currently on the shelf, available on the shelf. When precision will be several dozen of yards, we need less missiles to hit a production station. In terms of meters, that will be necessary in order to hit a production station. And here I'm not trying to frighten. I'm not on the side of the frightening elements. And this has to be met. The State of Israel cannot afford the luxury of letting units, power stations, electric power stations, be hit, and many other similar elements. Therefore, we need response to guarantee the capability of Israeli economy to function, the defense for Israel's population, and this continuum, the continuum of the war endeavor. In a gist now, the development of order of magnitude. The bars are at the right size, no figures, I can't introduce them. As you can see, the battle array of the State of Israel is more or less half compared to what it used to be 30 years ago, numerically, in real and nominal numbers. No interest in this game. Half of what we had just more than 2 decades ago, when we were speaking about reduction of the army and reduction of operational expenditure. The main programs in the aerial platform, 35 jet fighters, the combat helicopters, they should be relevant to the campaign. Cargo aircrafts of the State of Israel carrying many elements, manpower and cargo. This is a very important point. Many people are really surprised. Fleet that served for training until a couple of years ago. It was a Fuga introduced in France in the middle of the previous century, and currently the plane for training is a fighter that has been in service for 40 years as of the October War, the Skyhawk. You can't train pilots that are supposed to fly an F-35. Therefore, we need a radical modification. Now, the UAV, the State of Israel is operating it now for 40 years, if some may not know it. The UAVs are acted operationally. In the State of Israel, we have unprecedented know-how. Our perception reads the following. We can't build one UAV to answer our needs. Therefore, Israel adopted another strategy, actually devising different deployments or arrays for various needs, may be costlier, but operationally much more effective. One word about the UAV array. It began developing as a response to a certain operational campaign covering all operational activity of the State of Israel, all of them, no exception. The investment, as you can see, is more than 2 billion shekel. Ground maneuver, also composed of 3 main pivots. First of all, the ability to move troops tanks, troops. The second is the ability to defend, protect them. In recent years, a concept has been evolving. We think that you can develop something which is not armor, but something else. So when we're speaking about the concept that you hit the threats before they really hit you. Just think about the mobility, the weight, and many other elements. I spare you now the details. And thirdly, obviously, the intelligence abilities, the precise abilities of the power. I shan't continue. And here you can see a specification of every component in the program. One more word about it, and I'll reach my conclusion. It's quite clear that in order to link up all the power elements of the IDF, we need very, very good capabilities of control and inspection, and much is invested therein. Only part of it is here on the board. Thus we devised the program. This slide, I believe, has the critical importance in its distinction that without the balance that can be attained only in a long-term vision, the military power of the State of Israel will be weaker than its possible potential. Conclusion. Thus we can see the development of the IDF for the coming years. We do understand the traditional order of magnitude will decline. We don't have the resources to enact it, and yet we are developing all those elements that are going to replace the operational ability, and we'll have a stronger army. In the lower part, you see that we do understand that the IDF will shrink. It's the right thing to do. We'll be more effective, otherwise we'll have no resources for other elements. Conclusion, 6 points that I'd like to mention. The security challenges of Israel are not declining, they are changing. A jet fighter is no longer such, more complex than it used to be. An assault tank is now commander power, and with anti-aircraft missiles. Today the ranges are several kilometers, up to hundreds of kilometers. In certain occasions, many hundreds of kilometers. In consequence thereof, the IDF has to react rapidly with no question marks. We cannot afford the luxury of war instead of Israel, of many days, surely not a week or even months, and victory must be swift. We have to plan in long-term preparations. We have no ability to plan from year to year. I'm saying it as clearly as possible. You can't develop a race understanding of what will be the budget in 12 months. You can't do it, you can't accomplish it. And I believe that this was the greatness of the Brodet report and its conclusion, giving the security system practical horizon of 5 years with a theoretical horizon of 10 years. Now, the IDF is ready to substantial, far-reaching changes, not those that are met with cynicism in the media. The IDF is ready for substantial changes, reducing order of magnitude when it's not at the expense of security, developing various capabilities, and also purposeful changes. It's quite clear the State of Israel is facing major changes. We are part of the State of Israel. We are no outsiders. The IDF is an army, a foreign army, but friendly, user-friendly. We are willing to accept everything that's written here. And my last remark before winding up, calling Osnat for some help. A reportage was published a couple of days ago by Aluf Ben about a major preparing coffee and why they're being paid salary for it. Whoever is doing the job is officers like me, not me. I'm the presenter for the presentation. I'm no longer working at my age, and I believe that's very important for everybody to know it. Thank you very much.
Amos also does important things. He was a student as just like Itai, and he hasn't changed his uniform. I want you to explain to the audience something that there is sometimes that may sometimes be confusing. Weapons that were promised by the Minister of Defense, V-22, and new fueling plants, is that part of the $3 billion in assistance that we receive every year, or is that an addition? Is that an add-on to the regular budget? Because if it's part of the program, what will you remove from the budget? Amos asks us difficult questions as usual. For 30 years he's been asking difficult questions and not making life easy for me. The program that I presented here, I didn't mention the V-22 because it is a very recent development. There is great importance to be able to realize these capabilities, because this gives us this includes capabilities that the State of Israel does not currently have. So we will make genuine attempts. We have very good contacts abroad that are trying to assist us, and in order to enable us to develop these capabilities. This is our evaluation. These are the priorities that I recommend, and there may be additions, there may be add-ons to the American assistance. There might be additions over the coming years, which I think will be a significant step for the State of Israel. This was discussed during the President Obama's visit and by the Secretary of Defense. If this is part of the highest priorities within the arrangement, within the agreement, then that will be excellent. If not, we will find other solutions.